50, 60 years. Some of them still in use today, even though there are better locomotives out there, more powerful, less fuel consumption, less polluting. But we've got these locomotives that still do the job we wanted them to do, and they're cheaper to maintain, and we don't have to pay for building new high-tech models. So frankly, let's keep the old one. And but yeah, a lot of the originals, they looked at what they had and they said, okay, we have branch line operations, we have main line operations, we have freight operations which entailed local yards. So you would drop freight cars into a local yard, and the local businesses would come and load up the cars with stuff which would then be shipped somewhere else. And British Rail found that that was becoming less and less of a case, because people were using trucks instead. Road transport was taking off, and so all of the small sort of individually loaded units really could be handled as road traffic, and it was the long distance container traffic, wood traffic, that type of stuff, which was shipped long distances, that still happened by train. So those were happening on big yards, and the small stuff disappeared, and thus a lot of the small locomotives and the shunting locomotives just weren't needed, because there was nothing that small for them to do anymore. And so where they started out with sort of class 1 was the smallest, class 2 next size, class 3, class 4, all of the class 1s are gone. A few class 2 remain just for departmental work. So things like track repairs and what have you would be hauled by a class 2, because it's good fuel consumption. The trains they're hauling aren't priority, so they don't have to go very fast, and they normally don't have to go very far, and they don't have an awful lot on the back of them. The class 3s and 4s still in use today on sort of light traffic or light or heavy freight traffic, and passenger work has pretty much devolved to multiple units, where you have a rake of passenger cars all hooked together sort of semi-permanently. Some of the cars have engines in them, so they can maintain their power, or relative power to weight, just because multiple cars have power. So a 3-car train or 6-car train doesn't matter. The 6-car train has twice as much power as the 3-car train, so that's kind of where they live now. And some of the the individual locomotives are kept, because if a multi-unit breaks down, something's got to go and rescue it. And so having a powerful single locomotive gives you that ability. Now, they did create most of the locomotives to run in multiple units, much like America does, where you see a train, there's usually at least 2 power cars on the front, normally 3 or more, and British Rail could run their trains like to to require that amount of tractive effort. Now this field's a lot easier. This is one of the oat fields. Or is this the barley field? Nope, this is the barley field. Oops, I'm on the wrong map. Oh, this is a loamy field, so definitely big distance with nitrogen here. That one, we did all of that one, so we've just got 54 left to do. And I think, for me, much as I don't think that government-run business particularly works very well, when government has got involved in the business in the first place, so in the case of railroads in the UK, they basically, during the war, they just said, you need to provide us with a service and you can't charge us for it. They effectively bankrupted the industry. And so there was nobody left to run a decent rail service in England because of what the government had done during the war. Much the same as the recent lockdowns have just bankrupted certain industries. And it's not the industry's fault, it's the government's fault for doing what the government did. I think the difference is there's always somebody who has some money that could take up the slack in a lot of industries. But things like railroads or shipping, it can end up with, not so much shipping, but railroads or airlines, it can end up with the airlines gone bust. And if all of them are going bust because they're just running on a deficit, not through any fault of their own, what do you do? I mean, back in 2001, I was learning to fly and had to give up learning to fly because the flight school I went to went bust because they were grounded for 9 months. And so they had to pay rental on their aeroplane or leasing payments on their aeroplanes. They had to cover their loans. They had to pay for the building that they worked out of. They had to pay salaries, and they had zero income because they couldn't do any student pilot training. Now, flying operations have resumed since then, but as I said, the company I was flying with, gone. And there was nobody taking up that vacancy on that airport for the time that we lived there. So I don't fly anymore. Ah, yes. I heard a story back in the early 2000s about shall we say a place that is immortalized in the House of the Rising Sun. The IRS went in and audited their books and discovered that they owed way too much money in taxes, so the government took it over. And they couldn't even make a house of ill repute make money. So they went to a neighbouring house and asked the managers there, do you want this house? Because we can't make this one work. And so the organisation that ran the house across the road said, sure, we'll take it. And it's very profitable nowadays. But just goes to show the government can't even run. Yes. I think that the thing is it's not that the government doesn't have the people that know how to run it. They have no incentive to run it well. Yeah. Turn up, do your job, take your paycheck, go home. 269. Yeah, 270s. Is it 270? Yeah, 270, 260. Yeah, 279. Okay. But yeah, it's a case of the government pays you to turn up. It doesn't necessarily pay you to do a good job. And taxes end up just bloating bureaucracy, not creating a good working situation. Yeah, no innovation because nobody is paid to innovate. And go down to the DMV and get in the queue and wait for 3 hours until someone comes off their tea break. But the only way around that is to not license anything, which, hey, I'm not sure I'm fine with that. Although that said, there's definitely a case of aviation licensing is licensing that works. Driving cars is licensing that I really don't know that it works that well. And the reason I say that is if someone's caught speeding, drunk driving, kills someone while driving, because they were drunk or impaired, 90% of the time they don't seem to lose their license. Or, oh, your license is suspended for the next 30 days. Whereas pilots still view flying as a privilege. So you do everything you can to not lose your license. You fly responsibly, you everything by the book, because if the NTSB come in and investigate an incident that you have been involved with and determine that you're going to lose your license, that's it, you're done, never flying again. It is a privilege, it's not a right. And I think these days driving is considered a right, not a privilege. So really getting a driver's license is going through the motions to get a piece of paper. But at the end of the day, there's really very few repercussions for breaking the law while driving. Well, this field's turning out to be quite easy to get done. Anyway, how are we doing? It is coming up to 10 o'clock. And that's the tea done before it gets too cold. I spoke about it before, but there is a saturation point for innovation. And it's basically, looks at the percentage of your population of a country that is rocket scientist level of intelligence and innovation. Now, you look at somewhere like the UK, and it's a very small country, but back in the Industrial Revolution, the population was close enough together that there was collaboration between, for want of a better term, the rocket scientists. But and there were enough of them to innovate. You go to somewhere like Holland or the Netherlands, there's a lower level of population, and while they're very close together, there's not enough of them to come up with great strides of innovation. And the argument was made that places like China, while you might have the rocket scientists, the population was agricultural at the time, so they were spread out over such a great distance that the rocket scientists couldn't collaborate. So it's very difficult to build on innovation when you don't have anybody else to bounce your ideas off of. And that's one of the reasons why Britain was at the forefront of the Industrial Revolution. And then, among other things, they made it. They made inventions a commodity. You could invent something, and you had the rights to it, and nobody. You could sue people for stealing your rights, and you could sell your rights to production. So either you produced something, and your rights. Your patent allowed you to produce it for 14 years, at which point it became general use sort of thing. Or if you couldn't, you didn't have the facilities to take advantage of that, you could sell it to a manufacturer and license them to produce the thing, and they could pay you a royalty for each thing they produced. You would get paid for it, and so the whole invention thing was incentivized because there was a trade market for inventions. And at times there were cases where someone invented something, someone else invented something that needed that thing that the first person had invented, and they couldn't capitalize on their thing because they didn't have rights to the original thing that the other person still had an active patent on. Okay, my patchwork, take care and have a good day. I hope I'm getting this right. Again, I'm thinking we are here looking at, I don't have GPS. It looks like I've got this row sewn up. There may be a little bit over there between the edge of the field and where we're currently running that still needs to be done. But yeah, once all this is done, I suppose once we've done this, next thing will be to mow our field. I should probably take a look at look at the cow shed and see what we've done or what we need to do there. Yeah, we've done all of this bit, so that's good. And I've still got 2,600 litres of fertiliser left. I'm not sure, I think this is a very poorly or a very poor level of nitrogen in 54. So I'm going to guess that we're probably going to end up with that field needing a noticeable amount of nitrogen, which is fine. It's definitely going to make it easier to spray than this field. And the dark green bit, yes. Am I going to get it all? That looks good. Now how far do I have to go? Guessing that should be about done. So fold that up and we'll head over to the last field. I'm happy with how this has progressed so far today. We'll drive into the field. We'll worry about the edges when we come back round. Oh yeah, noticeable difference here. So no matter what, we're going to end up with an easy job of spraying this field, and we're going to use a fair amount. At least if I stay at the edge of the field, that should work. I think, so that field to our left, 53 or whatever it was, I think I cut that on either August or September 2, which is why it's not up for contract right now. And I kind of want to hold off cutting grass until that contract comes up, because if it comes up as hay, that'll let me top off the cow robot feeder, and if it comes up as silage, it's just something else I can sell. But I then need to figure out what do we want to do with our field when it comes to leaving enough produce for the cows to eat. So I might just... There are parts of this field which do need more nitrogen, but there's other bits that really don't. Although the orange bits are easy. Oh, this bit's green. I don't know. I should stop guessing. It is what it is. And this is our last field. So whatever we get done here, we are still going to have enough left. I've got 2,000 litres in the liquid tank on the farm. So we got 4,000 litres. That's about a full tank of fertiliser.
Just check the weather, and it's not going to rain until this evening. It's still very early, so things are still wet from the rain this morning. I haven't really talked much.
Well, then it's evening.
So yeah.
Why is there so many? I know where there's all.
How's the tractor doing? Okay, the tractor is going to need a service when this is finished.
Well, these are two different
Everything else looks
I
fine.
got like two different pictures. But there's some people
Oh. And of course, now that I'm coming in from the
and that's
end,
the evening.
getting that corner much easier. And less risk of wrapping
You can
the
do something for me right now, though.
the booms around a tree when you're unfolding it.
You want to put these in the
Relax.
mailbox? You gotta put your shoes on and your coat.
Okay.
New shoes.
New shoes. Alrighty.
And you make a little loud noise.
There we go. And so there's a little bit over nitrogenated back there for a little bit of a row. So we're going to have to cut, and then we had soybeans in this field last, which is why
Cool.
nitrogen levels where they're extremely rich were not affected. And I think, I can't remember,
Marky, there's some other stuff in there.
but there is a reason
So
why
just kinda lean it up
we
against
do
the-
have heavy nitrogen and light nitrogen across the area of this field, and basically because soybeans are disconnected from the nitrogen.
No, feel if it's
Requirements.
raining, but it's definitely not raining. It might be raining.
But as we put cereals into these fields, the cereals should reset the field to 0. And once that happens, we're really looking at just a much more uniform nitrogen map from latter years. One of the reasons why I've skipped doing any soybeans this year, I kind of want to get our fields settled with the amount of nitrogen that's on them. Or we may do nitrogen, or we may do, soybeans again. As I said, this year is our let's get everything fixed. And 0. Go.
What?
Cold.
Yes. Bueno.
Like that? Yes, that's the square map. Oh, I can't see what I'm doing from this far out. Okay.
Why is there so many types of shoes?
So I'm guessing this week might be a week to go potter around in the basement, because we have some stuff that needs to get moved around, tidied up. Another pile of stuff that needs to go in the trash bin if there's room for it, because that was a little bit small this week.